There we are.
That's the best way to make selfies really funny.
It is so
Just to
true.
turn the camera around accidentally.
It is so true. And you guys caught us. We were selfieing today. You know, first let me say welcome and good morning. It's Kate Richburg and Emily Miller in front of the camera.
Hi.
Here at beadshop.com. Brandon behind the camera. Janice doing some moderating on the computer, and of course, our lovely Gita, who's posting as beadshop.com, our wonderful, I want to call her our Euro moderator.
God bless
over,
Gita.
I know, from Denmark. So Gita's over there doing some linking and stuff as well. You know, in our Facebook group, we did a while back, we did a selfie roll call.
We did. It was actually really fun to see everybody's faces.
Wasn't it fun?
And
so we did another one.
I'm sort of sad that there was a couple people who were like, I never take selfies, they look terrible. It's
Right.
like, you know what?
You just gotta, you know,
Kate's
just do
the
it.
mistress of selfies.
I selfie. Look, here I am. I'm selfieing now. Oh, look me. Here I am. I'll selfie. There we go with Brandon. I'm going to selfie with Brandon there, right? So it's all good times. Just selfie. We're going to post our selfie roll call back in our group. So that's my little goofiness for this.
It's kind of fun, you know.
It is
I like
good times. We love to see your shining faces.
Yeah.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Hi,
Good
Kate
morning,
Richburg.
Emily Miller.
Good morning.
How is it all?
It's good. It's
Yeah.
good. It was fun to have a week off. I really appreciated all the birthday wishes. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
It was pretty staggering, the numbers, and I kept going on and loving every one of them, and waited till the next day to say thank you so that everybody could get them in. And
well, it was really nice of everybody.
It was
to,
really charming.
to wish you
And
such a.
Kate and I discover every day that we were sisters from a different misters or mothers or whatever, but we really have a lot of things in common.
We do.
You know, you groom me.
I'm going to delint you a
Thank
little bit.
you.
It's my costuming background.
I know.
It's true. Well, it's great to have everybody here. You know, we are going to be. There, I was fixing up. I'm looking at on our feed. There we go. Look how clear we look. We look good. Well, today we have such a big project, and yeah, I guess we didn't have Facebook Friday last week, right?
We didn't because it was the 4th
Because
of
it
July.
was the 4th of July. We are already deep into July. In my head, I don't even know what year it is, really. I'm like, is it still 2018?
The scary thing is that we're halfway through 2018.
Halfway through. We better start making holiday gifts, right? Ugh. And speaking of holiday gifts, this would be a perfect one.
It would. And as I was doing this, you know, and I constantly have new ideas that come into my head while I'm working on something, and I want to change it, and Janice is like, no more changes, no. But I think that these beads alone would be really fun as a centerpiece on a lariat. One, even just one with some delicate chain, or several. I've seen them stacked like that. I think we could ladder with these.
We could definitely ladder. I have some great, if you guys join me, well, I'll talk about it for Free Tip Friday, but I'm going to be doing something non-carrier bead-like, or non-Peyote Stitch-like with them for Facebook Live. So we've got some fun things. So yeah, I mean for Free Tip Friday is what I meant. So yeah, these 2-hole beads, they're so cool, and we'll tell you a little bit about the history of them as well. But before we
I really like to know the history of things because I like to know where they kind of
where they come from and
who
stuff
developed
like that.
them and all that good stuff.
And so, great, everybody's jumping on. We wanted to say that the handout, real quick, this peyote patterning that you did, Emily, it looks great.
It's already on the Facebook.
Yeah, Karen has been just super fast and jumped on. If you go to our website, to the Facebook Live page, on both of the samples, Mountainside and Seaside, you will see a little link that says Peyote Pattern, and it's already there. So Karen put those up.
Perfect.
We also put it up in the group so you guys can download it. You can, if you are just joining us for the first few viewings and you haven't viewed our broadcasts before, there are lots of ways that you can learn and rewatch and find the product. You can find everything that we sell for this product right on our website at beadshop.com.
Right.
Okay? And if you're navigating the homepage, go to the homepage. There's a little top navigation bar. You click on Facebook Live. All of the Facebook Live projects will pop up, and our latest will be in the left-hand corner. You click on that, you see the different projects that we've done, plus there's a basic recipe. So, you know,
I
if
think
you
the
wanted
recipe
to
thing
do,
is so important.
yeah, if you wanted
You
to
know?
do your own colorway,
Yeah.
you just follow the recipe, put in the colors that you
Mhm.
want, and boom, you're ready to go. You can also, Karen embeds the video on those project pages. You can watch it right on our Facebook Live, on those Facebook Live projects on our website. You can also watch it archived right here on our Facebook page. Under the video tab, you can see all of those Facebook Live videos. And then a lot of people's favorite when they watch it after the fact is to go to YouTube. So
Yep.
if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you're watching us on YouTube, I think there's a subscription button that's kind of below us as we're talking. You can subscribe there, and then you'll get a notification. You can also, for our Free Tip Fridays, you can also, if you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get notifications for those. And I also post those up on our blog, the Bead Table. So there are so many, many ways to stay in touch with us for our Facebook Lives.
And coming up on Monday, typically,
Monday, that's right.
is the episode notes, which really are the companion to this. You know, when you teach a class, you can only do so much while you're in the class. You have to know that people are going to go away and want to have notes. And I take notes during every class I take.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're watching and learning a new technique, it's hard to take notes and learn at the same time. So by Monday noontime, I guess,
Yeah, around noon, sometimes a little
Drea,
bit later. Yep.
has a write-up for us, and they are exhaustive.
Yes, our episode notes in the best way possible.
In the best way possible. Multiple pages, and beautifully done with lots and lots and lots of photos and lots of details. It even has the minute marker when certain techniques are being used. So if you are just unclear on one technique, scroll up to that technique marker and then watch it from there. You don't need to start at the beginning and watch it all the way through. Not that we don't want you to do that. We want you to watch it all the way through as many times as you like. But if you want to get that one little technique, just scroll up on the bar. It's really nice. And those episode notes make what we do here complete.
Yeah. And really, a lot of people do download them, and I know a lot of people actually download the notes first and then go back and
Oh,
watch
really?
the video because,
Yeah.
you know, we do some chit chat, we do some, you know,
Right.
banter back and forth and with you guys. And so if that part isn't your favorite part about the broadcast, that's cool. You can just download those episode notes and fast forward right to where the learning starts. So it's all good for that. So it makes it really easy, and I know a lot of people do archive those. You know, they're in PDF form, so you could download them to whatever e-reader you have,
Right.
like your
Save them in a little
Kindle,
folder.
your iPod, whatever, and they're very easy to read in iBooks or on your Kindle or whatever.
You know, maybe I'll start putting the date. Maybe we should try and have them titled by date.
They
Are
are.
they are?
They are. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
'Cause that always makes it easier
yeah,
to
she
find.
does them by date, and then we have them by title and stuff. So they're really easy to work your way through. So that's that story. Well, we have, as I said, some really great stuff to get to. But you have something, Emily, that you wanted to share that you brought that
I
I
did.
thought was kind of a cool thing.
You know,
That you guys might like to see.
Kate really likes to call herself an omni-crafter.
I do.
And I have to say that in my family, we all have our different artistic outputtings
Mhm.
that we like to do. And one of my sisters sent me this as a birthday gift. And it's a beautiful quilted piece that she made.
Yeah, isn't it?
And it
cool?
has a real purpose, which is pretty cool. Each white square is meant to hold one brooch
Little
or one pin.
Isn't that cute?
And she bordered it in some fabric that I gave her some scraps of that's got beads on it, African trade beads.
Right.
But I love all the colors. I love everything about it.
Yeah,
And I
looks
just
like she used
started
some batiks and some little color
this morning
stripes.
putting some pins on
Yeah.
it. So on the back side is a tube or a
There's little
channel
tube. Let's turn it this way so
Yeah.
everybody can see it.
that you put a dowel rod through,
Dowel or something.
and then hang that on the wall
Mm-hmm.
so that you can look at all your brooches and pins.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think this
You had
also
a really good idea to make it for earrings.
there's a couple tweaks I think we could do to this to make
Mhm.
it for earrings. So if you are an omni-crafter or someone in your life is a quilter, I think we could do mesh panels here to put hooks of earrings in. You can make this long, it could be narrow, it could be any shape.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brandon and I were talking about this morning. we could do it with a fold of fabric across here, so it makes like a little pocket.
Oh, yeah.
And you could put stud earrings on it,
Yeah,
or
that'd be
if it was
cute.
a little taller, you could slip a necklace in there.
Right, a necklace in there.
And then if you had a
Cute.
covering flap, you could roll it up
You
and
could
take
roll
it.
it, yeah.
Or store it in a drawer.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of a handy way.
And you know, they do make clear, like when I have a friend who makes like knitting bags and stuff.
Mm.
You can get that clear plastic,
yeah.
right? And
You
so
could punch a hole in it.
You
Yeah.
could make
Oh,
the
yeah.
little pocket, a little front pocket out of that clear
Right.
plastic if you were putting little chains or something in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
So it's pretty cute. I love that you brought it in. As some of you know, my mom's a quilter and I'm a quilter, and you do some quilting as well.
No, I'm a primitive. I
Well,
mean, certainly compared to you guys.
well, so this is really a fun one, and it just is a little square.
paper piecing.
Yeah,
She told me.
this
She
is
says, "You want me to
paper
tell
pieced.
you about it?" I'm like,
Yeah, it is paper pieced, but it actually would really be pretty easy. My mom, I think, is probably already figuring out in her head already. So, but it's really cool. So those of you who are quilters, you might kind of dig this little thing. So thank you so much, Em.
Yeah, and
You've
thank
got
you to my sister Barbara.
Your bracelet.
She did
your
a really
brooches
nice.
on there.
She did a really nice job.
Yeah,
you know,
what a
I'm
nice
still
birthday gift.
unpacking from my move, so I don't have all my jewelry at hand. But that was a few that I was able to
Yeah,
find.
it's really cool.
So.
I love it. Well, you know, I did a little bit of omnicrafting this week, too. I'm doing two things. One, as you know, some of you know, I posted it on my social media. I did some bobbin lace, which was...
You are out of your tree,
right?
Richburg.
It was really fun.
I have nothing to say.
Though it was really
I can't
fun.
say anything.
I was back when I took a trip to Europe when I was in college, and I went to school in Europe for a little while, and they brought us to a lace making factory. Brandon, did you go to the lace making in Bruges because Brandon went on the same
we didn't go
tour.
we didn't end up in Bruges.
In
when I was
Bruges.
there.
Oh, well, we went to Bruges. It was lovely. And so, you know, I'm 20, I'm there, and I'm watching these lace makers with all these bobbins doing their thing. And I thought in my head, even then I thought, someday I'm going to make lace in some kind of weird crafting dream. So there's a really cool store, some of you may have heard of it, called Lacis, Lacis, here in Berkeley, California, that's near us. And they really are a national treasure. They carry a lot of different lace, a lot of vintage things. They have a great website. But they were offering a class from this wonderful woman from Hungary named Eva, and she did this lace making class, and it was crazy fun. So crazy.
Lacy's is the weirdest, most wonderful store you could possibly go to.
It is. So if you are coming to the Bay
If you're
Area,
coming to the Bay Area, it's
don't
worth a
miss it.
stop. Yeah,
It
they
is.
have actually a lace museum there.
they do.
And you can bring in pretty much anything with you and say, "What is this?" And they'll say,
They'll
"Well,
know.
that is," and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And like we could do about beads,
Yeah.
but they can do it about lace.
And it was really cool to have kind of that international experience taking the class from Eva and seeing her beautiful lace that she did, and just in that great setting and stuff. So it was cool. I'm going to try it. She did say to me, she said, "Kate, people also make lace with beads. They put the beads on the bobbins first, and then they put them." So I don't know. So we'll see what happens. So that was pretty fun.
I have seen some Turkish
That was pretty fun.
beaded lace.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of makes me cry
Yeah.
a little bit.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
cool. And then I'm also doing right now, some of you watch the Tour de France. It's going on right now. I also do kind of a thing amongst, you know, I do a little bit of spinning, you know, with a spinning wheel, not on a bike, but on a wheel. And it's called Tour de Fleece. So that wonderful fleece back, some of you guys saw that Janice sent me back from Maryland Sheep and Wool a couple of months ago. That is my Tour de Fleece project. And so the thing is you spin, because it's like a bike, right? You spin while you're watching the tour. So you Tour de Fleece while watching Tour de France. So I'm on my 4th day of spinning. So I'll let you guys know.
And World Cup?
I have, yeah, nothing for the World Cup. There's no
World Cup
no
weaving?
World Cup weaving. There should be, right? Because you weave in and out as you do play your soccer. So
And the beads are like a little soccer ball.
yeah,
So
who
World
knows?
Cup, World Cup bead weaving.
Maybe I'll start that next year. You never know. So we've been busy over here with our crafting, but you, Emily, have been super busy making these samples, plus great samples for next week that we'll talk about before the end of the broadcast.
Yeah, next week's going to be really.
Yeah, it's going to be really great.
Yeah.
So let's jump in then and start with this project.
I really think we should just take a look at this for a minute.
Okay, so-
and do you want to switch the cameras
let's
around
switch
so
the
we can
camera
go
down.
and
Yep,
overhead?
so we'll be tight.
Mhm.
So let's
Alright.
do it.
You can just turn that in and I'll
let's
hand
do
this
it.
to
Great.
Catherine.
Okay. Great. Let me get this above here. And I think, can you see on that side? Am
Pull
I
it,
straight?
push it in a little bit more. The camera's not quite attached yet.
Is
No,
it
no.
attached there? I can't.
No,
I
think.
can't
Yeah,
see
now
it.
it is.
It is good. Okay.
There's a kind of a gap when it's attached,
Okay.
and not when it. Is that
No, this is locked right
Oh,
here.
okay. You
Yep,
got it.
good. Okay, perfect.
not
All
too
right.
much?
Okay. So how we doing? Does it look okay? All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. It's getting smoother every time.
Yes, we're getting better at this, right? Thank goodness. So, let's look at, I'm seeing all of the, there we go. All right, so let's take a look.
So these are carrier beads covered with Peyote Stitch,
Mm-hmm.
and they're strung on elastic. So they're very easy to slip on and slip off, very multi-wearable
Mm-hmm.
for lots of different sizes. I think that they are really amazing. I'm so glad to see two whole beads kind of making a comeback,
Yeah.
because they were kind of an old school
kind of
item.
old school. So
Mhm.
while you're holding those, Em, I also want to get in. I have kind of a mix bag of the carrier beads
Do
here,
you?
and I said that I would talk about them just real quick. So let me just kind of dump these out so you guys can see. Carrier beads that's a check glass bead, right? And it's a
Right.
traditional
Molded
kind
glass.
of molded, pressed, molded glass bead. And you saw these when this carrier bead project was first coming out, you would see them in plastic, this plastic shape bead. And then Brandon, these are, okay, I wasn't seeing, I was looking at Emily's
I'm a little bit
computer.
behind, apparently.
Emily's computer's a little bit behind mine. There we go. So the check glass, this is kind of a traditional Czechoslovakian glass shape. And so they started making these again for this specific, what are called carrier beads, because they carry the peyote stitch on top of
I wonder
them.
if these were developed because somebody found some plastic beads and did that with them.
Maybe, it could be.
And
it
then
could be.
it kind of got.
Yeah, but this is kind of a traditional, Czech glass bead shape. And these white ones here, we have these pretty white beads here.
Nice chalk white.
Yeah, this chalk white. A lot of these, you can see the luster coatings, like that purple luster, that blue luster. The lusters are done over these white beads. And then a lot of the platings, when these are plated, are either plated over this plain black bead or the plain white bead. Like these are not platings, but coatings, I guess is really what you call them. So these are glass. The coatings are really, really durable. They're really, they're fun to use just on their own.
Picasso one is
Yeah,
kinda
the
awesome.
Picasso. Isn't this nice? This would be just a transparent glass that then has that Picasso coating over the top. So even if you don't peyote stitch over the top of these, there's a lot of stuff to do with these. And again, on Free Tip Friday, I'm going to share some more tips with you on how to use these guys in your designs.
Gosh, those silver chromy kind of colored ones are.
Right, aren't they
Pretty
really
delish.
cool? And so you took this idea, Emily, of the carrier bead, and we've seen this kind of be bantied around for maybe the last 12 months or so. In the bead world, we've
Yeah.
kind of seen this peyote stitch. So I think it was time for you to put your seed bead magic on it.
Put my little touch on
Yeah.
it.
So what were you thinking, Emily Miller? What were you thinking?
You know, one of the things I kind of like to do when one is learning something kind of new, and peyote stitch is new for some folks, and some folks are just new to patterning, or it's nice to have some sort of project that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. I thought that these worked really well for that. You could actually alternate these peyote covered ones with plain ones if you wanted, and that'd be another way to get through this. And in a little speedier fashion. But I thought it was a great place to explore patterning and kind of what happens when I do this or what happens when I do that. And that, to me, that made a lot of sense for these little carrier beads.
And they're fast.
They are fast.
to do, right?
One thing that you could also do is do more embellishing on top of these, and that was the next. That'll be the next level. You know, I could see doing a picot treatment all along the edges of that after it's on the carrier bead.
It'd be really cool.
It would be very cool. I could see doing it with multiple beads in between, so spreading it out a little bit. Also a really good idea.
And you could also embellish over the top of these,
Oh,
too,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It would look pretty cool.
And I liked the idea, too, of taking a limited palette, so 3 colors of seed beads, and seeing how many different kind of options I could come up with. And as I made them, I kind of laid them out in little groupings. And then as I assembled this, I picked one from each group, so they were kind of mixed up in that grouping.
So the base bead for this
Seaside.
colorway is called Seaside, right? And do you have the list?
I do.
Over there. So the Seaside, we've got 2. This is Seaside, this is Mountainside. So the base bead for Seaside is the blue luster carrier bead, and the base bead for Mountainside is the bronze, which is really
Well, that's also one of my favorite kind of
isn't
colors.
that cool?
Yeah.
And so these are the beads you started with, and that's how you chose
Right.
your color palettes
Right.
from there.
And, you know, I often, as you guys well know, I often take my color paletting kind of from nature. And I find things that I enjoy about the mountains, that the color scheme is a little bit different there than it is when you're down at the beach. Neons for me are, or sometimes people just call it a bright kind of color. I love for that little pop of color. And anytime I can work in a Picasso bead, I'm all over it. These mustard ones are actually kind of have a luster bronze on the ends.
Yeah, it's like
So
a
it's
Picasso
kind of,
treatment on the
kind
top.
of matches up and disappears in between there.
And that's the 5mm check rondelle.
Correct.
That one's in mustard. And then you use the 5mm check rondelle in sky blue Picasso.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they both look great. And this would just make a great bracelet if you were just stringing it on stretch.
Yeah.
Magic without the carrier beads over the top would be cool.
Yep.
And so you use here's the pattern then that's the handout that we uploaded.
Yep.
So
I did a couple things with my handout this time. One of them was to add a strip down this side that is a place that you can do your own color paletting with. And if you want, print out a couple copies of this or take it to the copier and make some copies of it, just in black and white, so that you can actually color in the beads as you like and then create your patterns.
So this pattern is the exact number of rows that you did on the carrier bead, right?
Yep, exactly so.
Great.
And when we do peyote stitch, I tend to work bottom up. If you work top down, it's the same. But remember that these first 6 beads go on and form actually rows 1 and 2. Okay? Since the beads are offset to one another, it makes patterning kind of confusing. And it makes something that is something tough to look at and tough to kind of remember how it's going to work out. So, for instance, in this particular one that has the different colors along the edge bead, yeah, it's gonna
I got it.
find the one.
I got it.
You got it? This is the first 6 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 1 kiwi, 4 fennel, 1 kiwi. And then we go on to row 3. Now, you might flip or not flip your work to work left to right or right to left. It doesn't matter. The directions would be the same. So it'd be picking up 1 kiwi, 1 fennel, and 1 fennel. And then you'd be passing through that very first bead, bead number 1 again, and turning around, coming up on row 4. So 1 kiwi, 2 fennels. So each row only has 3 beads, right? Although it looks like there's much more going on in between the rows. That really is, I don't have another piece of paper, but I have a triangle, which will work just as well. Those beads up there, the up beads, that is 1 row. So if we drop down and kind of isolate again, those beads, the 2
That's your
fennel,
3.
and that's the
And you guys will
kiwi.
see that as Emily moves along. It'll be a little bit easier for you to see. But you have that clever little
diagonal.
little
yeah.
handout, this little legend right down there.
Yeah, so that's your first 6 beads for row number 1 and
Mm-hmm.
row number 1 and 2. So every time you do it, rows 1 and 2 are actually all built of just those 6 beads. Okay,
Yeah, it's just that 3 beads across. These build up pretty quickly.
and they're really fun.
they?
I mean, there's almost no end to the patterning that you can play around with. Somebody posted on the site last night on the group last night, and they had already made their black and white strips. I
Yeah.
was like, what?
So clever.
So clever. Off you go.
Yep, you're ready to go.
Right?
So let's do a little overview, a little peyote primer
Okay.
for everybody, so you guys can kind of see how that works.
I brought some different beads to work with today. And, you know, every time we do these Facebook Lives, I have a little debrief with myself at the end of the day. What could I have done better? And so these are some glass beads that really emulate the shape of a delica. They're like a little tube, but they're enormous. And they actually are a little bit struggling to work with. So I don't usually recommend that you start with these as a learning tool, but for visual, it's really nice to see and be able to see what's happening. Are you tidying me
I'm
up?
going to move just so that you
Don't mix
have a
my beads.
little more room.
It's kind of fun to mix the beads.
I know, right? There we go. Oops, I grabbed a green one.
Kick
Get
it
back there.
So these tubes emulate the shape of the delicate, kind of that squared off shape that you get. And when I mean squared off, what I'm really looking at is if we look straight down on the bead, that it's kind of even here and even on all walls. There's no kind of rounded, bubbly kind of shape to it. And peyote is, delicate shaped beads or cylinder shaped beads are ideal for peyote stitch because they lock together like little tiles and they look beautiful and flat. I did start my piece with a stopper bead.
As you do.
As you do. Now remember, a stopper bead is not part of the pattern. It has nothing to do with any kind of patterning. It's not going to be there when you're finished. You're going to take it off. And a stopper bead is the thread coming through the bead with the needle, around the bead and back through again. And that loop of thread is just there to keep your first few beads on the string. It will slide, so you can use it to help you tension and keep tension on your first few rows. So this is a heavy Ceylon, one of the Ceylons that I'm using to do this little sample with. But normally I'd be using KO and I would wax it. I like KO single so that somewhere along the line the thread goes through the needle and back, and so it's overlapped a little bit. Use about a yard or maybe a yard and a quarter of thread at a time. It's plenty to make the strip, each strip. You don't need more. You won't have to change thread. If you have a very long thread, you'll end up with tangles and knots that are not the fun kind.
Are not fun.
No. All right, so I'm going to start off just using these larger beads and do a few rows just to remind you about Peyote Stitch. And then I've got some samples of some of the other colorways or color patterns, and I'll show you how they work up. I'm going to actually do the one that we saw first on that little handout where I have, oops, that bead has a little rough edge on it.
Oh yeah, no.
And it's a little narrower.
Reject.
So I'm going to take him out of the plan.
And so you're doing this pattern.
Yep, I'm doing the first one in the column.
That guy.
Yeah. Right? So every time I put my beads on, I always take a moment to look at the beads. And in this case, I'm going to double check my count. So I have 6 beads, 1 green, 4 white, 1 green. All right? I'm going to slide those down to my stopper bead. And I find that I have to hold my beads in my hand. So I can't really work on the table with my beads personally, but this is just sort of my need to do this. All right? So these beads are row 1 and 2. I'm about to start row 3. Looking at the chart, I need 1 kiwi, which is going to be a green guy. I'm going to skip a bead, add a bead, and pass through the next bead. Okay? And what you'll see happen is that newly added bead stacks right up on top of the one on the end.
And it offsets it.
And
so
it offsets it
this is
perfectly.
the first bead of row 3.
Correct. Now I'm going to add two fennels, or whites in this case, picking up a bead, skipping a bead, passing through the next bead. So Peyote Stitch, as most seed bead stitches do, has a bit of a mantra that allows you to remember what you're doing. And I'm a little loose here. This is the downside of using these bigger beads, is that the thread is too loose to track in the beads. Okay?
Terribly loose.
Picking up a bead, skipping a bead, passing through the next bead. So right now I'm ending row 3, coming out at the bead number 1. Now what can happen here is these guys can flip around. And ideally they wouldn't, or you would manipulate them so that they don't, but they can flip around. And on this first row, it really doesn't matter that much with this particular color scheme.
Right.
If I was doing a different one, it might matter a lot. So I do my best to kind of keep it straight generally. So now I'm going to pick up a bead, and it's going to be a kiwi. Pick up a bead, skip that low down bead, and pass through the next bead.
And that is your first bead of row 4.
Correct, Kate, you're getting it.
Yes.
Peyote
Stitch
Peyote's
is
your
really,
friend.
It is. It's the only seed bead stitch I really,
You resonate with.
that's my go-to.
Pick up a bead, skip a bead, pass through the next bead.
If it's not Peyote Stitch,
You ain't really having it. You don't want to know it. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, pass through the next bead. Okay? So the looseness that you're seeing here is partially because my thread is so small compared to the hole in my bead. The ways we can adjust that is to pick a bigger thread if we needed to. We could also wax our thread, which would give us a little bit more grip in the beads. And I did take a moment to just tighten everything up. And just like in looming or any other seed bead stitch that we do, when I put my needle through a bead, I aim for the roof or the ceiling of the bead as I go through, so that I'm staying away from the threads that might be down here. And this is a nice one to see it on. You can see my needle go in, up, and it's coming out right at the top of that little tunnel. Okay?
looks good.
Yeah.
I think, and the Delicas, these, again, the ones that Emily are working with, they're actually not a Delica bead. It's like a
It's a cylinder bead.
cylinder bead,
Yeah.
like one of those little perler beads.
Right. Oh, these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So these are actually just a glass bead. They're a vintage bead, and sometimes called a tile bead. Not a tila, but a tile. And if you were using perler beads at home, like those plastic ones that you melt,
Yeah.
it'd also be a great one to work with.
Yeah.
But I would upsize the thread a bit because this looseness, it's just really magnified.
It's occurring because,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
thread is.
Right? So let's do one more row. So if I'm on this row and I'm going to add a bead here, here, and here, it would be a green, a white, and a white. So one way to kind of look at what you're doing with patterning, and this requires you not thinking quite so hard about what you think you should be doing, but watching what you're doing. So it's easy for me to understand if I look at what bead I'm going to, where I'm going to put that new bead. So if I put this here, it's obvious that's the right bead. If I were to put a white one there, you'd say, oh, that's the wrong bead. So anytime you can actually do this without stitching through to help you remember where you're at or what would be the right bead next. And I tend to be a little bit more of an intuitive beader. I like to do rather than study. So I want to continue to add my beads and move right along.
Now, as you're coming to the last bead in the row, do you flip your piece or do you work backwards?
Always a controversial question.
Isn't it? I'm so fraught with controversy today.
You are fraught with controversy. Did we say that controversy earlier today? What did we said it
No,
about
I think,
something else?
I think you're
Or was it
having a
last night?
deja vu moment.
No, I think we said it
Controversy-
earlier.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yes, we did. We were talking about yarn,
Oh,
right?
that's right. Earlier today.
Yeah, earlier today. So
That's what I want to do.
I don't flip typically.
You don't flip?
No,
I'm a flipper.
and I tend to bead like this. So I'm beading on kind of a 45-degree angle.
Uh-huh.
So I bead down and then up like
Really?
that. Yeah. And
Do you think it makes a difference?
no, I don't think it makes any difference at all. I use a stopper bead, and I always keep the stopper bead in the lower left-hand corner. So if I put this down and I don't have any idea of where I was when I go to pick it up again, I know that if I just orient myself there, I'm good to go. I know where I'm at.
That's smart. I,
Right?
of course, again, am being a rebel with no stopper bead, and I'm flipping back and forth. And you can see, take a look at the size of what Emily's, the beads that you're using.
And you're only doing
versus-
4 across?
Because I'm a rebel.
You're a pain in the...
I know, but I want the bead color to show.
I understand.
It's a little, I'm doing a little,
You're going off the map?
I am. I can't help it.
So, again, if you look at the openings where I'm going to add beads, it's easy to see what the color should be next.
Right.
Right?
Right, because you just put the bead on.
Right.
that's
If you put a
the
bead
color
there,
underneath.
that's the right one.
Yeah.
If I put it here, it'd be like, no, that's the
not
wrong
right.
color.
No.
Right? So, yes, I tend to bead on a 45-degree angle. I don't know why I do this, but it's what I do. I know back in the day when I was learning Peyote Stitch and getting to be very good friends with it, I had some epic fails. And I was beading in the round, and I turned around and went the wrong direction. And then
It happens, doesn't it?
tried to figure out what had happened to me.
Right.
And yeah, I had some epic fails and some epic, oh, those beads do not go well together issues.
Well, you know, you just
Right?
have to keep soldiering on.
Yeah, it's true.
So, Em, how many rows does this strip need to be?
You know, we need about 40 rows. And I count rows, there's 2 ways to do the row count, right? One way to count rows is to count across on the diagonal, and this is what this red line is. You'll see in many larger peyote patterns, that line will come into play. Somewhere along the line, there'll be that line. So if I was counting across here, how many beads did I have, how many rows? I'm working on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. So ignore these guys down here. They're not involved yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows, right? If I count the sides, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the same number of rows, okay? So if you want to count rows, you can do it either way. If I had to do the diagonal, I would have to turn and diagonal up to here, turn and diagonal up to here. And that's
So
a lot
you
of...
keep counting.
Yeah, that's a lot of
that's a lot of
going
twisting
back and forth.
turning.
So 1, 2,
a lot of
3, 4,
switchbacks,
5,
Emily
6,
Miller.
7, 8, 10, 12, 13,
is.
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And I think I have 22 over here too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 44 rows.
44 rows, that's what I'm working towards.
So I noticed on some of my pieces that some of my carriers that the row count varied just a tiny
Little
bit.
of variation in size, right?
So seed beads always have some variations in color. The biggest variation, or variations in size. The biggest variation you'll see is on a black bead and a white bead. And if you want to do something in a black and white checkerboard, sometimes it's easiest to do it in an even checkerboard rather than an odd checkerboard. Okay, you'll see less difference. So that would be 2 black beads, 2 white beads on every row. Because if you do that, it evens out. If you do 2 white beads and 1 black bead, so an odd number, it would wow in and out a little bit, and you wouldn't like maybe the result so much. One of the things that's great about cylinder beads and Peyote Stitch is that they are almost so perfectly even that the edges are completely straight,
Right,
and there's
and nice,
no
there's no
wowing in and
waving,
out.
yeah.
And it's very, very tight.
No wavy gravy.
So I did find on a couple of them that I had to go an extra row or take one off. Or actually had to take off 2. Because not only do we need to make the strip, we need to join it together. Right? So
you're making this one, so it's 44 rows plus a...
No.
Plus
44,
a row?
44 altogether.
Because then you just bring it together, you
Right.
zip it up.
here's
Okay, got it.
here's an unfinished one, and I did my final row with a different color. So it's really easy to see where I join this up, but it won't be visible later. If you have a problem with a join, or for instance you're doing a pattern that has repeats in odd numbers, so that's totally okay. All you have to do is hide the final row on the edge of one of the carrier beads, and no one will be able to
No
see
one
it,
will
and it
notice.
will never be visible to
That's
anybody.
smart.
Okay.
Nice. So, to close this up, or how do you measure
Well,
that carrier
I'm
bead?
gonna save that for
Okay,
just
you're
a
gonna
minute.
save it for a second.
I am
Okay.
because I made.
What are you gonna do?
What am I gonna do? I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do.
I like the looks of whatever this is.
I managed
Here,
to
want me to move this
careful,
over?
careful. No, I just didn't want to get
Okay.
too
Do you
crazy.
think you could use 11/0 for this project?
Absolutely.
Okay.
With 11/0 though, make sure that you edit those beads very nicely. If you see it too wide or too narrow, put it to the side. You don't have to get rid of it.
These are 11/0. That,
Well, they're cylinder beads, and the cylinder beads don't really come with the same sort of number.
Well, the Delica.
Yeah, they call it an 11, but
Yeah.
if you were to mix that and another 11,
Right,
it would
and
be
a
different.
Rocal.
Right.
Right, the round. But
Right.
yeah, but you could definitely use an 11/0 round seed bead
Sure.
rather than a Delica.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And different manufacturers too vary a little
Yep.
bit.
Yep.
And Czech versus Japanese
And
all
it would
vary.
still be 44 rows with the.
No, you'd
No.
you'd have to fit it.
Yeah.
Okay.
you
Yeah,
would
it'd
have
probably
to
be a little less.
All right.
So the 11s are going to be a little
comments are not
fatter
showing.
That was
height
Melanie's
wise.
question.
Oh,
about the
hi Melanie. I hope you're
44.
feeling better. I saw that
Mel.
Mel had gotten in some surgery and ay. Well, now's the time to bead as long as it's not hand surgery or eye surgery, I guess. So I did make samples of each one of the different patterns that we can work
nice.
with. And of course these are tiny compared to my nice big tile beads, but I can pick right up on any of these and move right through them. So this is the color on the edge of the bead, and the next one is actually alternating rows of
These
color.
are so tiny. I'm not sure how well.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stop moving and let you see if you can zoom in on
I've
those two.
zoomed in as tight as I
Okay.
can, so
All
you
right.
might want
I
to
know.
pull it up a little bit.
The
I'm not
tininess
sure.
is a factor.
There you
Yeah.
go. That looks pretty good.
Does it look good?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's keep going.
Right. So here's one where I did a little bit more of an interesting pattern, and I have removed my stopper beads because they were in my way. This one actually has 6 beads across, just like the others. So it was 1 fennel, 1 lime, 1 kiwi, 1 fennel, moody blue, kiwi, and moody blue. So it was 6 beads in 2 groups of 3. So what it ends up looking like down the road, where's my bracelet?
I'm also going to get
Oh, it's
you
over there.
a little bit of a card.
Okay.
This is
Too dark?
The blue is blending in.
Oh
See what I'm
yeah, you
saying?
really can't see it,
Let me
can
get
you?
you a little bit of a contrast color.
Let me find the
And I'll
bead
just
here.
take you a second.
Here it is. So here's how the bead looks in the end result. And it gives us multiple stripes going vertically around off the bead, right? So an even stripe of fennel, an even stripe of kiwi, fennel, moody blue, kiwi, and moody blue. Okay. So that's kind of a fun way to play around with stripes and colors. And you could use that pattern or that recipe. You could put one color of a different color in each one. So you could have 6 colors going across that and 6 different stripes going around the circle.
And I know the other bracelet is
Mhm.
different colors, but
Yeah.
the patterns might show up a little bit
Yep.
better. Yeah, because there's a little bit more contrast.
Oh, and of course I did kind of a different one on that one. Well, you know, I'm a pain in the ass. Here we go.
Yeah, I think it's just a not very
Here.
contrasty there either.
Yeah.
Here.
Happens to not be very contrasting.
There you go.
Okay. What would we do without Kate Richburger to help us out?
I got it. Okay. Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there we go. Easier to see, I think.
Yep. Right? That's kind of nice. Alrighty, and the last 3. So I did 6. A double stripe, so 2 of each bead, also kind of fun looking. And you know, 2 of each just gives you these chunkier, better, less blended colors.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The
Question?
wrong thing.
Oh,
And I think that with the carrier beads, there was a question: can we use beads larger than an 11? I don't know if 8/0s.
it's kind of gonna. It's.
I don't know if they'd lay right.
I think you could do 8/0. It's gonna make it bigger around in diameter, which would be sort of interesting. But it's also it's not going to be very wide. I'd have to see how many beads across 8 would do. If it's not 4, it might have to be 5, which
Right.
gives us odd count peyote, which is still doable.
But it's a little fun.
It's a little
different.
futzy on the edges, right? So this particular one is 2 rows of each color. And that, of course, makes you think a little harder about what you're doing. Because my first 2 rows, rows 1 and 2, are all one color. And then to actually get kind of an even look, I actually had to do 3 and 3. So to me, this looks more like it's 2 and 2, but it is actually 3 and 3. When you get into this kind of patterning, one thing that's really fun to look at is to always pay attention to the beads along the edge. And the sides will, if we're doing kind of an even pattern, the sides will sort of swap where the colors go.
Right.
Right? So I have 3 rows, 1, 2, 3 of the blue, and 1, 2, 3 of the green. So see how there's 2 on this side and 2 on that side and 1 of each? So that would swap sides all the way along. So if you had any doubts while you were doing this, kind of as you were going, all you'd have to say is, oh, what happened before that? And then you'd see. And this might be a place where you wouldn't have an even number of one set of rows at the end. And then you would have to actually say, oh, rut row, what am I going to do? Just take a row out if you need to, and then join it up along the edge.
And Cindy Brooke was saying, of course, that she would try 15s, which would be also, you could go smaller. It would be small, but it would be cool. For
Yeah,
sure.
15s
And we're
would
going to
be
show
awesome.
you in a little bit how to close them off and how to adhere them to the carrier bead.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's next.
Just hang on, everybody. Hang on, we're getting to it.
Hang
Don't
on.
worry.
So this is probably of the stripes that we could do, probably the most complex. And this is one where we'd have a diagonal stripe going through the piece.
I like that diagonal stripe.
I do too, actually. It's kind of a pretty one.
And that one, the diagonal stripe,
yeah, it's the last
is
one on the
this
right-hand
one.
side.
Yeah, it's this one right here.
Just going to put this through here because I think that will make life a little easier to see. So the diagonal stripe bead has these diagonal stripes of 3 colors going around and around. Okay? And I think that looks really cool. You could actually do them and
Like a chevron.
alternate as you went around. Chevrons are still big, right?
They are big.
Yeah. So that patterning is a little more complex, and we have to start with, I started with 1 bead of the fennel, 2 of the kiwi, 2 of the moody blue, and another 1 of the fennel. So really there's 2 of each for rows 1 and 2, right? When I turned around, I picked up a kiwi, and looking at this grouping across here, right, I know that it's not going to be a blue one. I know it's not going to be a fennel. So by the process of elimination now I know it's a kiwi. So I did a kiwi, a fennel, and a moody blue. Okay? Coming back out and around, picking up a moody blue, and that's when you begin to sort of see these stripes occurring. Remember when I said before that you want to look at the space that you're filling? And that'll tell you what the color of the bead would be. Moody blue, fennel, and kiwi. Okay? As you're going along. I'm sorry. Backwards. Oh, I know why this looks weird. It's upside down.
There you go.
There we go. So, fennel, kiwi, moody blue. Turn around and back across again. Okay? And you just repeat.
Repeat.
Lather, rinse, repeat.
So there are a couple of questions. First, I want to say hello to Morella, who's our Cajun friend from Lafayette, Louisiana.
Hi.
I want to say hi. And I would say, Morella, I just checked your order this morning as I was in and checking orders. So both of your orders are going to be going out today. I just want to tell you. And Lafayette, Louisiana caught my eye because, you know, my little grand was born and raised in Louisiana.
Oh,
so
I know.
I have a special affinity for my friends from Louisiana. I also, Emily, that's your name. That's who you are.
What?
Will you show a pattern on here
Sure.
if we were going to do a chevron?
Sure.
Do you think you
Absolutely.
could? And this is how Emily would actually start. I'm going to pass that over
All right,
there.
I just want to grab
How
my
she
multicolor
would
pen.
actually start to use this little chart that she's given you to start making your own patterns. So let's pattern out a chevron,
All right.
shall we?
Shall we? So I am a sucker for a 3-color pen or a 4-color
It's
pen.
so true.
It's so useful. I'm going to put a little something under here so that I don't pierce through the paper. Okay?
Great.
Right? So I'm going to take my section just right here at the bottom because I know this is what my beginning would look like. And I would like to have, let's see, I'm going to do this.
You can
Change
kind of
color.
start to just color it in, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's how I do it.
Now, if you used colored pencils or something a little less permanent than ink, you can, if you like. Right? So here's row number 1. And just by looking at this, knowing the spaces I'm going to fill, right, I kind of already know what color I want to do next. I'm going to do a blue. And you could do this by coloring kind of in the row up if you wanted. I actually find that to be more confusing personally. So I tend to do it kind of one at a time. Okay? So here's my chevron developing. And that's going to be blue over there. And is that right? Yeah. Blue here. It's going to be red here. It's going to be black here. I'm going to turn around.
This is amazing. You're just doing
Mazel.
this on the fly. I
Black,
love it.
red.
And I see. So your chevron is going to be this way.
Well, my diagonal first goes this way, and then I have to
then
turn
you're
it
going
and
to go
go
it that way, right?
But I wanted to get 3 rows of each on here,
Right.
just to show you.
Right. So I
what
see where
this
you're
is gonna
going.
go
I see where you're
happen to.
going with it.
I feel like I'm off a row here somewhere along the line, but I guess I'm not.
Oh, I made this too.
So this is always kind of an interesting point to get to. Here I am, I've got my rows creating, and I'm coming out, my needle would be coming out here, okay? What color what's my next color,
I don't know.
right? So,
Blue. Your next one's blue.
no,
I don't know then.
okay. Well, would it be red?
I don't know.
Is there any red anywhere near there?
There's a red right there.
Yeah. There's a red and a blue,
So it has to be a black.
and there's a red and a blue and a black.
Black. So
yeah.
that has to be a black.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can kind of do this
by process of elimination.
by process of
sort
elimination. Yeah, absolutely.
But so your row, but wouldn't this be black here and then it comes down black there?
Yeah. Wait, hang on a second.
Wait for it, wait for it.
Wait for it. Blue.
Yeah,
What's this one going to be?
red.
So smart. And I'd be coming out here, turning around, right? What color do you think I'd be having?
I don't know, is that red or is that black? Again, because that black row is going to extend there.
Well, I don't know. Is it?
I don't know. Oh. Where are you getting your red row all the way?
Brandon's even chiming
Just
in.
depends.
So
It's red.
these rows are going to repeat on these edges.
Okay.
So you always know what the
Okay.
next one is. It can't be blue, right? And I'm continuing this row of red across, right? And this row of blue across. And this row of black across. So these are going to always repeat. So it's kind of, it tells you what to do. You know, if you don't know what that next bead is going to be,
Look at the edge.
look at the edge. Also, look at what's happening this direction. You know, what just happened. Peyote is kind of based on the row before.
What just happened there?
What just happened there, right? So it's going to be red. I'm going to go through. What's that next one going to be, you think?
I don't know, I'm stitching. Let me see. It's going to be blue.
Dang, I think we'll make a stitcher out of you yet.
Well, you know, I'm a pretty
Right?
good stitcher.
Yeah, I know.
Sorta.
Sort of.
I'm a good bobbin lace maker.
Are you? How skilled are you at bobbin lace?
Well-
Where is it? I want to see.
I'll show you someday. I'll show you someday. Bobbin lace only a mother could love.
Yeah. Well,
So you're going to go all the way up with this one. So where do you turn the corner with your chevron?
you know, it doesn't matter where you turn the corner with your chevron. You can
Okay.
turn it anywhere.
Okay.
Okay. But what's going to happen is you're going to build kind of a triangle from the edge,
Okay.
and then that will become a full chevron by the
Okay.
time you get there.
So
right?
where do we go next then?
So let's turn this corner. We turned this corner. We went all the way around. Let's turn this next corner. And my needle is coming out here. What's my next color going to be?
Red.
Right. So my next color would be red if I was
You were
going to
doing
have
diagonal
diagonally,
rows.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of red, I think I want to have black.
Right,
Right.
because that's the inside of the chevron.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So those 3 rows are all blue.
You're
Right.
correct.
And those 3 rows are all red.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm changing my pen colors too quickly and losing my place.
Mm-hmm. And that one's blue, right?
Yep.
And then what I do is when I'm doing this kind of visually,
Mm-hmm.
I look at it and I go, there's my red, so I know I have to come down.
So this one's going
So
to be red.
there's my, and I know that I have 1, 2 black, 1 blue, 1 red, so I know that that's going to be my red.
Right.
Yeah, nice.
Right?
So now you kind of reverse it and you go,
Mhm.
okay, so let's turn this one around, right?
Mhm.
So that's
Actually,
my top red.
We kind of switched how we were doing this patterning. We were
Okay.
doing row by row.
Mhm.
And then we kind of started filling in
Mhm.
because we could see where we were going.
Mhm.
So what would be the color here, do you think?
Well, do we repeat that black?
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And then,
Blue is next, right?
Right.
Is there a blue?
yeah. Questions, Brandwin?
Mostly they're having a discussion about whether or not a chevron is an arrow or not.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it this way, the chevroning, but that would be
Sure.
a different count because
Right.
since this is even count, we don't have a
A point.
center
Right.
point. Yeah.
So what I consider the chevron shape is this kind of arrow shape building out to the edge.
Mm-hmm.
And one way you can look at this is a zig and a zag,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you do a zig and a zag and a zig and a zag, and you'll get that process all
So
over
let me
again.
ask you though this way. So if we were actually reversing this, and if I were just laying in my
Yes.
red as my zigzag,
You could do that,
right?
and then filling in.
And then I could fill
Yeah,
in.
yeah, absolutely.
So here on this one, this would actually be red, red, red,
Mhm.
all the way down, right?
Yep. So patterning with a chart is really nice, but remember that when you go to do this as a stitch, you might actually need to have a straight edge of some sort. I was using my triangle tray as my straight edge, and that will help you pick out which is on what row. So I find that it's easiest to pick the lowest bead. So this is the row I'm stitching,
Mm-hmm.
right? Black, blue, and red.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I move up a row, I'm stitching black, red, and blue.
Mm-hmm.
And move up another row, and I'm stitching blue, red, black. Move up another row, and I'm stitching blue, black, red. So it's, some folks like to do it with the charts. Some folks like to do it with words.
Mm-hmm.
I think ultimately I probably am more of a word person than a chart person.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easy to write this out, if you like, by using the color numbers or the names, and to write it out so that you just have a straight little word chart to follow.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I found that doing it on the computer is handy is to actually use, instead of using colors, because that gets kind of busy looking, I'll use bold or italic or non-italic to help me pick out the colors or to focus on the rows. So what I did was I did row 6, so the beads are in italic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy to kind of pick up on what those are and where they are. And you can go along and check if you like. Another, I think, interesting way to help yourself keep track of rows, and this is a kind of an old school trick, is to lay out your beads. So let's just say I have a row that's, I know the row is going to be 2 blue and 1 green. I can actually lay my beads out in the order and in the direction that I might need them to be. And then if my next row happens to be 2 yellow and a green, then I can lay that out and have it. So I can take a few moments and lay out a few rows at a time and then just pick my beads up. I don't have to think anymore.
And it's a good help to figure out, if you're just starting with the patterning, how that will go.
Yep. It's easy to fix. If you did the wrong ones, you take it off.
Yeah, it's no big deal.
Okay.
And BD.
So, connecting.
Yes, connecting.
This is one of the things I love about Peyote Stitch.
I'm not sure if it's charging. And we're very low.
Okay, hang on. You keep going.
Sure. One of the things I love about Peyote Stitch, and Brick Stitch will do this as well, is that it can seam together seamlessly. And I've always thought of this as the teeth on a zipper. So the zipper has teeth that interlock, like the zipper on your pants or on a jacket, and these beads will perfectly interlock as well. Okay? So I have my finished rows, and I'm going to take my needle and thread and zip through there and close it up. What I did on every piece that I did was I fit it around my carrier bead to make sure that it was a snug fit. It's okay if my carrier bead slides out. I don't need it to be in there while I'm zipping, but I want to make sure that my thread or my beads fit all the way around. So right now on the finishing side, I'm coming out of a down or a low bead. So when I move over to the other side, I'm going to come through an up bead.
So we're not adding any beads.
Nope.
Nope.
And then I'm going to pop across the way and pass through an up bead over here. And pop back across the way. Oh, I'm sorry. So here's what happens when you stitch through the wrong bead. If you put your needle back pin tip first, you'll probably split your thread. Always do it eye first to come through. Okay? Then you can get your thread out easily. Sorry, this shifted a little bit. I'm going to pass through the up bead over here. And I can even do this in almost one go by wiggling my needle back and
You
forth.
get a little bit tighter, Brandon, and so everybody can see. Super tight in there. That's great.
And don't forget to remove your stopper bead before you start to do this step. You want nothing in your way. So, if I tighten up all my threads, my seam disappears.
Right, because it's like the little teeth of a zipper.
It's just like a little teeth of a zipper. Now, I do like to reinforce this spot a bit. In Peyote Stitch, every bead is going to have 2 threads that pass through it. I like to make sure that these edges, especially, have a couple of extra threads. So I'm going to go on the diagonal along, passing through maybe 3 or 4 beads. Pull that up snug so everybody's happy and tight. And I might go all the way across to the other edge, carefully tangling my thread as I go, because it's no fun if there's no tangles. Wrong. And pass through again. So peyote stitching is one of the few seed bead stitches where we really don't tie knots. Wow. I've got a bad bead in there somewhere. Kate, would you please pass me a plier?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I got it.
You got it. You
Yeah,
got it.
I got it.
No need to bust a bead, Emily Miller.
Oh no, I wasn't going to break a bead. I was going to pull my needle through.
Oh, gotcha.
I did bend my needle pretty badly. So I find stitching with bent needles to be kind of a pain in the neck. And I will change needles quickly here because I find it harder to thread and kind of a pain. So I'll get rid of this needle here. Toot sweet. Okay. Some people like a bent needle. I do not. All right. So there's my woven in thread, my buried thread. And I'm going to trim off the end. And I'm going to avail myself of another needle.
One more needle.
Yeah, I find needles that get bent like this,
Yeah.
they're not good for much.
Yeah, I don't like a bent needle either,
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
So I'm going to put a new needle on my tail thread. This is the end of my beadwork. And what I'm looking for is to make sure that I get a thread going around that outside edge. So this was the beginning and this green row is the last row. So I'm going to go right in there. Catch that guy. All the beads become guys. Hey guys.
Hey guys.
Hey guys. It's kind of like a gang.
So when you, I'm just...
Huddling along on yours.
I am.
Good.
When you have to bury both ends of your thread, right?
You do.
Your starter thread and your ending thread,
Yep.
right?
Yep. I could have done that a little tighter, I think, but I think I'm okay.
It is true. It's hard to decide what row you're going to, how tight is too tight, how tight is, or how loose is
typically,
too loose.
typically too loose is lots of thread showing.
Right.
You can't, well,
No, I meant row-wise, Em.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, that row was too tight, and now I put this
Oh.
row on, and well, yeah, but it's okay, I
oh,
think.
you
It's
got some
fine.
little variations on a theme there.
Maybe a little bit. But I'm going to
Yeah.
put that one in. But that looks, as long as it looks snug, because we're going to show
Yep.
you guys how to
Secure.
secure it.
Yep. So when I did all these, I really wanted them to just be hanging out there with their own tensioning selves. But you know what? That's not really workable. So you
Gotta
do... Oh
adhere it.
gosh, there's that bad bead again. Rats. I got a bad bead in there that has a bad hole. That's too bad. Huh.
Well, you're just going to overcome it.
I love overcoming. Problem
Very
solving,
confident.
that's beading's, jewelry making's middle name. Right? Okay. Great. Yeah, that one of those beads has got a bad hole. And grab my shape and slide it in there. I really wanted to not use glue in this one. You know, the problem with glue is there's always a chance that you might have to do a repair. And gluing in beadwork and seed beadwork generally means you're going to have,
Yeah, just...
you're kind of committed,
Yeah.
and not always in a comfortable way. But I like a little Zap gel. Can I get you to pass me a baggie?
You
I
bet.
put them out
There
there,
you go.
and a toothpick if you wouldn't mind. So I like the baggie method, as Kate does, and it just means you can throw away something that's got a little
Covered
bit of
with
glue,
yes.
and you don't have to worry about it too much. And I'm just going to take a very small amount of Zap. I really don't need very much. Pick it up. And this was my concession to gluing. So I really feel better if it's a very thin layer
Right.
and kind of only on one side.
And when I actually glued some of yours, Em,
Mm-hmm.
I pulled it to side. I just did like a little dot kind of in the middle. I didn't even do the whole side.
Yeah,
And
kind
I
of worry
just
it's not going to...
slid it on.
There
I mean,
we
it
go.
was about a third maybe
Right,
of it, so it was okay, I
right.
think.
And then we'll let that dry.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have worked for years with 2-hole beads for stringing, and over those years I have discovered a few tricks of the trade. And can I borrow your...
What do you need?
Oh, no, I got some right here. Didn't have a strand of carrier beads. So when you're working with 2-hole beads, there's 2 ways you can actually string them. You can string them on one hole all the way through, or you can string both holes at the same time. And I really found that with 2-hole beads, it's actually easier to string both at the same time.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is I cut myself a piece of elastic that's about 14 inches long or so. I know this is really hard to see because it's clear.
And we're using the Stretch Magic. It's the
Yeah.
0.7 millimeter.
Yep.
It's in your materials list. And Em, you didn't use a needle, did you?
No.
Okay.
And I cut a 2-foot long piece, or maybe a 28-inch long piece, and I just folded it in half. So that when I put my both holes, the thread through both holes, it goes down and it stops itself, and it can't fall off. So I don't know if that's earth-shattering to anybody but me, but it was at the time when I first started working with beads, that there was ways to make it so your beads didn't fall off. And elastic's a little bit, you know, wiggly.
A little fiddly.
And if you're struggling with stringing through one side, tying it off, and then trying to string through the other side, you're making it way harder on yourself than you need to. Right? So string on both threads through the holes. And once I get them all strung on nice and tight,
Go up a little bit.
yeah, I know, I'm just trying to get my
Okay.
thread in the hole.
There you go.
Once I've strung it up nice
I
and
can't see.
all my beads, then I can wiggle them down to the middle, cut this thread, and I'm ready to tie them off. Okay, so there's no loss of beads at any point. I don't have to have any clamps or bead stoppers or anything to hang on to stuff with.
It's really smart.
It's already built in, right?
And do you pre-stretch your Stretch Magic?
No, you know,
I don't either.
Can I tell you how I honestly feel about Stretch Magic?
I know you don't like it.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm not a real huge fan of elastics. I just find them to be kind of weak over time. They don't last very
Well, they
long.
don't. They don't.
You know.
They do have. I mean, the Stretch Magic or any. We also carry different elastic. The cloth colored elastic, cover elastic, which is also great. But
And
it
actually,
is
I really
not-
like the cloth covered elastic
I
better.
do too. I do too.
But it's not very small.
Yeah, and you know, with your Stretch Magic, the kind of the thing about putting your Stretch Magic bracelets on is you don't want to like overly stretch. When you put this bracelet on your wrist, what I wouldn't do is pull it out like this all the time to stretch and stretch.
Right.
All you need to do is just
slide it gently
slide it
on.
on. Slide it
Yeah.
gently on, right? You don't want to
Look how pretty
pull
that
it
looks
out.
on
I
you.
love this piece. And
Yeah.
and so I do sometimes when I reel my elastic of my Stretch Magic off of my spool, I'll give it a little like, okay, you know, like, hey, Stretch Magic, just like I do with leather. I kind of automatically do this. I just kind of go, hey, Stretch Magic, just to make sure it's good to go.
Right.
And the other thing that you really want to make sure when you're tying these knots, you guys, in the elastic, that you don't not stretch into your piece. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
that the elastic, when it's tied, isn't pulled so tight that the elastic is
It's
stretched out.
under strain
Right,
all the time.
because then as you keep stretching it, you're overstretching it and overstretching it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think this is a good way to do it. Why don't you string a few on here, Em, so we can show people how to tie the knot.
Sure.
Let's tie the knot.
Yeah. No, anything I can make elastic easier to work with is tops in my book.
But this 0.7 millimeter, it's fairly thick, and I don't think you'll have much issue.
Well, and I've always felt like the 0.5 millimeter is
With
too
this,
thin and
yeah.
the 1 millimeter is too thick.
I use the 0.5. Sometimes I use it double.
Yeah, I do that too. And in that case, I would use a flexible eye needle
Right,
to string it
through.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is so much easier to string it on a needle and not on not trying to wiggle that wimpy stuff through. And I do the same surgeon's knot that we do with a lot of other things with this guy. And they do really, I mean, they string up surprisingly fast,
Yeah.
2-hole beads, you know? It's kind of nice. I used up all the 2-hole beads and all of the rondelles exactly.
Okay, so
For my
if you
bracelet.
did need to make it in your wrist, for me this actually fits perfectly, and there
Right.
are, let me see, I'll count, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, there's 15 beads, carrier beads that you did on this piece.
Yep.
You did 15.
And I dropped a couple of rondelles as I was working on this at home, and it was like, oh, down onto the floor.
Right,
Beads
you
natural
can't-
habitat.
Yes.
I can't even lose one.
No,
It was a lesson.
you cannot even lose one.
No.
And then I have some fun things to show you.
Do
what
you?
I've been playing around with.
Oh, I
over
can't wait
here.
to see.
While you have been so industrious with your stringing.
I saw you pick up a black carrier bead. I was kind of
I know.
intrigued.
Who knew?
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of fun.
Yeah, elastic bracelets are...
They're super convenient. I mean, a
They
lot
are.
of people really love the elastic. I think that if you just understand the limitations, that it will, that it's not a permanent solution for sure. And you know, you could certainly get a 2-hole clasp.
Absolutely.
Right?
I was
And
just
string it
thinking that. Will you get out of my head?
Softflex. Well, you know how it is.
Fireline is city.
Yeah, you wouldn't really
Yeah.
string this on Fireline, I don't
Okay.
think, because. But I would definitely string this on Softflex.
Yeah.
You could do your peyote stitching on Fireline.
Yeah.
You could,
Yeah,
for
absolutely,
sure.
if you want to.
But if you're stringing
In this
these-
case, it might be a little bit of overkill, but yeah. Fireline's a little pricey, and I don't always feel like I need it. It's really nice when I have something like the textured fringe stuff, and
to have
I
that Fireline.
to have that durability, no matter what the beads are like.
But these are pretty durable.
Yeah, and these are pretty even to work with, and we're not putting it to too much stress and strain. Isn't that pretty just without the
Yeah,
covers
it
too?
looks fantastic.
And it would look really nice with 1 or 2 or 3 covered beads just throughout,
Right, you can
interspersed in
embellish,
here. Yeah.
It has a very vintage look to it, so, and you know how I feel about vintage.
Well, and 2-hole beads for a long time were only something that was vintage. It just didn't.
You didn't find them much.
You didn't find new ones. Now that the sources of vintage beads are beginning to
Right.
kind of disappear, like everything else, you know, it gets bought up and into my stash and Kate's stash, and you know.
But I think the use of, again, if you didn't want this to be stretched, the use of
Softflex,
would be
yeah.
a great one.
Those new clasps, what are they called? The new slidey clasps with the multiple holes. Clio?
Oh, the Clio clasp would be perfect
the
for
Clio
this.
clasp would be just awesome for this.
It would.
And it would make
would.
a very refined looking bracelet, a little bit more finished. Right?
So you've been terribly clever with holding, see how Emily's holding those 2 strands as she's stringing. And now
goes much faster.
you're going to see how she uses, remember this side over here? That's just one long strand of thread. So how long did you cut? What's the
About
length?
28 inches or 2 times 14 or 12 or 14. You know, elastic is inexpensive, so I'm not worried about having a little extra. And I really want to have enough to work with. There's nothing like struggling with something that's too small. Eek.
This is so clever though.
Right?
So see how Emily's pulling out now, and this is still looped. Can you see that there? But she's just pulling this down. Now you're going to cut this open, right? And tie your knots. Easy peasy. Couldn't be easier.
Yep.
That's really very, very clever.
So hard to see the elastic, I know.
Yeah.
I know, on the
Right?
this clear little elastic.
Mm-hmm.
So you just tie 1 and 1, right?
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tie the surgeon's knot, and that's right over left and around again. Tighten it up.
And remember, during this portion, you guys, you want to tie the knot so it's tight, but you don't want to tie stretch into that piece. This is really.
I've never really thought of it that way, but
Mhm.
you're absolutely right.
Because you know how, like, when you have a rubber band and you stretch a rubber band and you stretch a rubber band and you stretch a rubber band, you kind of push it past its stretchiness, right? And then
Yeah.
it's just loose and funky.
Kind of like the elastic in your clothing. You know,
Exactly.
it gets tired.
And that's a good tip to help it not
This would be fun with some shadows in the middles
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
The standard the regular shadow.
regular shadows would be
Yeah.
pretty in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's the multi-twist for the surgeon's knot. Pull it up snug. The surgeon's knot's kind of handy. In that first loop, it actually helps hold itself in place and really makes a difference. Okay. So I'm going to do a little dab of glue, little
Zap,
hypo-cement.
or hypo-cement, yep. And if you used a doubled over strand, you would just hold the double strand as if it were a single.
Right,
And
right.
tie them together.
Oh, I grabbed this one
Yeah.
thinking it was going to be easy to open because it was a new one.
Do you want me to
was I
open it for
wrong?
you? You got it?
I think I can.
There you go. And the hypo cement, GS hypo, is perfect for doing those. Now, when Emily sent these in, because we were off last week, she sent them to me, and I had to do the gluing, and I also had to give it to Karen pretty quickly to take the photo. And what I did was, I threw caution to the wind, and I cut the excess away before that GS was cured. And
Fully
you know what I
dried.
had to do, Emily?
Restring it.
I did.
Did you swear at me?
I didn't. I swore at myself because I knew right now this really, you'd want to let this sit. I would let this sit 24 hours before I cut this away.
Easily.
But I thought, well, it's not going to come apart. I'm just going to cut it and I'm just going to give it to Karen so she can take the photo. And then Karen handed it back to me and said, hey, this is coming apart. I'm all, oh, fantastic. Fantastic. But look at how great, how different. Can you hand me your other one? I mean, just the difference between.
It'd be fun as a stack like that.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Really be fun to stack. Can I show you what I've been doing over here?
Oh, yes. Oh.
Okay.
I hear a picot.
I hear a picot. So what I did was I chose a black carrier bead, and I thought it would be kind of fun to make a strip that was just 4 beads across, or 2, you know, a row of 2 and 2 and 2, so that you could actually see the bead on either side, which I like a lot. And then, when you were talking about picot,
Embellishing.
I think that row of 4, that 4 row, leaves me plenty of room to add a little picot to the side. And I just want to show you guys. What I did was, this is my working thread, the thread that I was doing my peyote with. I, of course, cut an obscenely long amount of thread. So I finished it off, I zipped it up, I wove the tail, the first tail back through, and then I kept going with this thread. And what I did was, I just wove my way out to the edge here, and I came up, put my 3 beads on, and this top bead could also be a different color, it doesn't have to be all the same. And then I went down into the next delica, and then came up, put my picot, so then I finished that row, and then I came across, and now I'm here. So I want to show you guys, I finished this picot, I've come down through that delica. Now I'm going to add 3 beads. And these beads could be different. These don't have to be delicas.
No.
This could be a regular seed
This would
bead.
also look great in a 15.
It would. It would look great
Yeah.
in a 15. It would look great if this bead at the top was a different bead, you know, a different, it could be a round seed bead rather than a delica.
Janice, is that so pretty?
So first, actually, what I need to do, I need to get my needle into position. So I need to bring it up through that bead. Now I'm going to put my 3 beads on for my picot. 1, 2, 3. And then I just come back down in the bead right next to it. See that? And then that little picot that I've made, you kind of tug it a little bit, kind of coax it all into place. And with the delicas, you know, that picot sits a little little funny, but
I
it's
actually
not too
kind of
bad.
like delicas and picos.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit blocky
Yeah,
and it's kind of cool looking.
gives you a little bit of dimension.
Yeah.
And so then you could come up. I'd add a second one here, and that's one. There's two. I need a third delica. And this is the colorway, some of the beads from the Mountainside colorway, whichever those were. I'm using, Emily, you can
I would be happy to.
see.
So that's the Duracoat Persimmon on the outside
Yeah.
of the Bayberry Delica.
It's really pretty.
2131 and 2108.
And you can see how the picots kind of offset each other. I have 5 picots on this side, 5 picots on this side. And I don't have to do the picot all the way around. I could just leave this on the back so that these would definitely be directional. Okay? And then I would just come in, if that were it, I'd just come in and I'd weave this off, weave this out, and then cut it away, and then glue it on with my zap. But I think that this little picot is kind of a fun way to do a little bit of variation on a theme. So, am I in frame? There we go. Okay. And so yeah, that's the story. Yeah, I dig this picot, and I dig just this 4 across this way. I think it looks good. What I was also thinking about doing, and I can slip this out because it's not done, this would also make, if I just slipped it out, wouldn't this make kind of a cool just bead for multiple strands or something in there? I could just take it off of the carrier bead, and I have this cool.
Well, and you know
kind
what I
of
would do if I was going to do
spacer.
that?
And I also
would-
thought, let me show you this real quick. Get out of my head.
Wait, stop
Emily
it.
Miller.
Stop it. Shut
You
it.
could also do it this way
Oh, yeah.
and have it go across.
Yeah.
I thought about that too.
Yeah.
All right, here you go. It's all
So one thing you could do with, if you wanted to do that, and I don't know if everybody caught that, Kate, how that was a very brief but kind of interesting little aside. So Kate was saying that she could actually use this as a slider bead over multiple strands of beads. So that means that a bead that a bunch of strands go through, and it kind of has a job of keeping those strands together. We were just looking at that other piece of jewelry that's very much like this, you know? So what I
Right.
would do is I would actually seam closed
right.
a
So
couple of these.
So it's higher in front.
Well, no, I would do it as
Or-
evenly as possible
okay.
because I think what it would do is give it a little bit of stability side
Okay.
to side, and it wouldn't fall out
around
into
so much.
round. Yeah, yeah. But I think that would be a really cool thing to do, actually.
Might be kind of fun. And it depends. Like if I did a whole bunch of like, I don't know, seed bead strands through this or something through that. But if it were going
Chain.
through, like chain, something
Yeah.
like that.
Or
it
leather.
Might be kind of cool. Leather. Yeah. This would totally be great as a slider on leather, right? You could totally do that. And again, I'd do the picot on the front and I'd leave the back kind of plain. But it's I don't know, it's a little bit of a thought, a little bit of a thought, and it would be a cool ring too. The back would be plain, right? You could see that,
Sure.
and then the top would be
The fun part.
Yeah,
Kind of like that.
yeah, kind of like this one, only seed beads. But this is also prime for some embellishing and stuff
Oh,
on
yeah.
the top, right?
Yep.
So it's pretty cool. You could do your fringes on the side. You could fringe,
fringe.
like you did in your Brit Stitch
Yeah.
piece. So there's really so many. All these delicas are sticking to my hands. There's so many options here.
Oh, I love.
But again, I also dig it going, doing a strip and going here in the middle. And that strip, if you can see, is big enough so it exposes, those holes are exposed.
So once you string through it, it's going to be captured in place. Yeah, that's a good idea too. Yeah, and we could do a. You know, what we could do is we could take a like a
could
daisy
fringe off this.
daisy spacer or one of the flat spacers and make it come up through it. So you'd have a little circle with another little bead on top.
Yeah, it'd be real cute.
Yeah, real
And then
cute.
if you did it like this and you wanted some fringe or something, like
Sure.
let's say that this was your necklace and it was directional, you could do that picot where you came through, you could come all the way back through here and fringe at the bottom. I mean, there's so
Yep.
many ways
It's really
to riff
a
on
versatile idea, this carrier bead, and we've just scratched the surface.
It's pretty killer. I loved it. The first time I saw it, I was like, I want that right now.
And it took me a little while to warm up to it.
You did. You were all, I was all, Emily, carrier beads, get on it. You're like, I'm too busy making earrings. Which reminds me.
I got other things going on.
I got other things going on.
Yeah.
Let me grab that sample and then why don't we move the camera around? And
all right.
Unless there's any more questions.
I don't know.
let's get this
I
show
feel
on
like
the
the
road.
questions are not. Everything's coming out in a kind of weird order today.
Where are the earring samples?
They're in the photo box.
The holes on the carrier bead big enough for 5mm leather?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
That was Kim's question.
Okay.
Okay.
Mostly people are admiring Kate's ring and liking the different ideas you were
All
coming
right,
up
let's
with.
get this camera moved over.
It's really fun, you know, for us to kind of riff live here.
Yeah, it's always fun to do. Super fun. We've got it there.
Can you move that?
Yeah. There we go. Ta-da!
Oh, that blue's all nice and dry now.
Oh, great.
Sweet.
Yes. That's great. Yeah, some of the comments have been a little bit goofy today on.
Yeah, they seem to be not
Facebook.
In time or date order.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
There we go. Okay, so fun.
Way fun.
Great job. Here
Thank you.
you've got this
Oh yeah, I turned it around
flung
because
to your back.
it gets in my way when I'm
It's a
stitching.
little tight, Brandon. Did you move that out?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Oh, what's that?
Patterning.
Totally epic.
Good fun, huh?
So fun.
So fun.
I can't wait to. I don't know.
Well, and the other thing to do
Play around.
would be not just make each one of these a different pattern, but put a different thing on each one. Come up with 15 ideas.
Right.
Different
so
ones.
it's like a little.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I like the word sampler,
Little sampler.
but you know, I don't want it to feel like everything's a sampler.
Mm-hmm.
I want to have something that's the deal.
I like a sampler.
You know. Yeah. I know.
That's good. I do.
I am.
Speaking of which, has nothing to do with the sampler. This is what we're doing next week, huh?
Yeah.
And I wanted to show you guys.
We've been doing a lot
Do
of
a
seed
little
beads. I've been
teaser.
doing a lot of seed beads
Mhm.
this past 2 weeks.
Mhm.
It's been so nice.
These are your what we're calling your lantern
Mhm.
earring,
Yep.
right? So
Yes.
good.
Shanghai and Tokyo.
Yeah. So these will be up starting the beginning of next week.
Yeah, for next Wednesday.
You guys will see all of the materials and stuff for them, but they're really cool. I love them so much, so I just wanted to bring them in
Mhm.
as a little teaser. I can't wait. This earring is so up my alley.
I know.
Love it.
Well, and it's a little longer, fringier than I would wear,
Mhm. I love them.
but I love it too.
Mm-hmm. And you also have a variation where you just do the lantern part. So if the
Right.
fringe isn't your
Bag.
if it isn't your bag, you can make them a little different.
And it was really fun to play with so many different types of materials, you know.
And so we're going to be using true twos and
2mm,
semi-precious, all kinds of cool
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So we can't wait.
Oh no,
It's
for
gonna be
sure.
Do we
awesome.
want to
It's
do a
gonna be
close up
awesome.
on the earrings, or
We can do a little bit of a
Zoom in.
close up while we pull our other stuff together.
Try and make this not so.
Well, thank you
Sway.
everybody for watching today. It was really fun. I think this is such a cool project. I think it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the carrier beads will be back.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be. These are not a one-hit wonder.
Mm-mm.
They're going to have a few visits on
Yes,
Facebook.
a few visits. And I'm going to revisit them on Friday on Facebook Live when we're going to look at a few options on how to string some two-hole beads. It's
Mhm.
going to be fun. So I have a couple of things that I'm going to share with you on Friday, so you can join us then. But to bring our show to a close today, we wanted to let you know we have a couple of fun things. First, of course, we've got our little offer here. If you got your newsletter today and you opened it up, you knew that all of our carrier beads are 25% off.
Just so we can
Yes.
draw you in and get you hooked.
Yep, get you hooked. So you can add carrier 25 to your cart, and it will knock 25% off all the carrier beads you're getting today.
I think I'm gonna have to get the white and the black.
Yeah, they're cool.
Maybe
I
I need to do a
love,
black and white necklace.
yeah, I
or
love
something.
the black. I love that they're matte. I just
Yeah.
love them, love them. So if you
Mhm.
do that, and that sale is good. Today is the 20th of, no, I'm sorry, the 11th. I don't know where I got the 20th. It's July 11th,
7-Eleven.
right? 2018. And if you use Carrier 25, that code is good until midnight tonight Pacific time. Okay? And if you're watching us live right now, it's a little after noon Pacific time, 12:06 to be exact, by the time on my computer. We have 5 baggies of mixed carrier beads that
Juicy,
we're
juicy
giving
bags.
away. Yeah. Karen, you know, when she takes the photos for the website, a lot of times she has to cut the strand up. So I took every color that we had, everything that Karen took up or cut up, and I made 5 little mixed bags. So 5 orders that are placed between right now and 1 p.m., a little after 1, maybe 1:07 p.m. And you write carrier mix in your order notes. We will put you in a drawing to win one of the 5 bags. So there'll be 5 of
5
you
winners.
Yeah, so it'll be really, really cool. And so yeah, there's 15 carrier beads in this bracelet. And if you go to the project page, you guys, if you're not familiar, if you go to the project page and you scroll all the way down, Karen has a great project map, so you can see them all individually. You can see each bead. It's really easy for you to see it. Okay, so thank you. Another great show as always, Emily.
You're so very welcome. And Ginger, she wanted me to show one turnaround for Odd Count Peyote.
One turnaround. Well, we're a little
Past
we're
it,
a little
Ginger.
past it. I'm sorry,
Sorry.
but we'll do that in the future.
Yeah, we'll have a surprise something. Maybe.
Yeah, you never
Yep.
know. So
Yep.
we'll keep that in mind. So, but we have come to the end of the time, so I'm sorry about that. But okay, I will see you on Friday for Free Tip Friday, and we'll see you next week for those fantastic earrings.
I know. I can't wait to do the earrings.
Yeah.
They really. I really love them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're good. It's going to be great. Thank you, Brandon, as always, for that fantastic camera work, and for Janice and Gita for all of your great.
And Drea.
And Drea was on.
Yeah.
I missed her. All of you guys for doing that great moderating, and I'll see you on Friday. Have a great week, everybody.
See you next week, guys.
Alrighty.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
Looks so good.